11 dagen lang was hij de perswoordvoerder van Donald Trump in 2017, totdat hij werd ontslagen vanwege een te grote mond. En nu heeft hij een ongelooflijk succesvolle podcast waar heel veel mensen naar luisteren. Hij is afgezwaaid van Trump, hij ziet hem als een vijand en hij staat op de vijandenlijst van Donald Trump. Donald Trump is volgens hem een fascist. Waarom? Dat vraag ik hier in Midtown Manhattan op Madison Avenue aan Anthony Scaramucci.
Trump was actually on one of our first dates together 15 years ago.
Really? Really?
Well, we were at a baseball game. We were at a Yankee
we had a
game.
baseball game.
So,
If Trump wins the House of Representatives,
Yes.
he has the White House, he has the Senate, he has the Supreme Court, and then everything basically. Is it a almighty position then?
I do predict that it will be contentious. I do predict that they're going to try to push some things that will expand the power of the presidency, expand Mr. Trump's power himself. And I think that will be, that'll be up for big debate and big discussion. But, the people have spoken. This is a democracy, and I wish the president well. I'm at odds with him for a number of different reasons, and I'm at odds with him from the cruelty, the rhetoric of cruelty, the rhetoric of misogyny, the rhetoric of racism, all of these things that he was putting out in the campaign. I'm at odds with him. I don't think that's what we need in our leadership, but he won. And so I'm a sportsman. I offer him my sincere congratulations. I'm a fellow American. I want him to do well. There's certain things that he's saying that I don't like. He's got many people concerned around the country. He's talking about an enemies list. He's talking about going down the enemies list and going after people. He's talking about going after people in the media.
Are you on
He's
that
talking
list,
about,
do you think?
Oh, I know I'm on that list. Yeah, of course I'm on that list. I have a lot of friends of mine that are on that list alongside of me. Yeah.
How do you know that you're on that
Oh,
list?
well, you could find the list. You can find it on the web.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm 48th on the list. I think there's like 350 people. I sort of feel like I should be higher on the list, though. I did a lot of work to try to convince people not to vote for him. So I sort of feel like I should be higher on the list.
Well, talking about the list,
I don't know. I mean, maybe, we're going to have modern day Anne Franks around here. I don't know. Maybe we'll be
are you kidding?
in hiding. Am I kidding? I'm sort of kidding, but, there's a lot of people that are worried about it. I'm not personally worried about it because, I'm an entrepreneur. I grew up here in New York, and, New Yorkers have learned long ago you have to live with no fear, otherwise you're not going to have a great life. And so I don't live in any fear related to that, but I'm not happy about it. The fact that you're a member of the media, and you and I are talking about somebody that won the presidency that has an enemies list, and somebody that's actually been in an interview very similar to this saying, well, I want to use the American military to go after my political adversaries, and that he's describing his political adversaries as an enemy within, like there's an enemy within the country, and also the rhetoric is it's not good. When you're saying that the immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country, this is reminiscent of other people that spoke that way. It's not a healthy way to speak. I mean, I don't know. The immigrants are eating the dogs and cats in the country. It's very dehumanizing. You got to be very, very careful with that rhetoric, because in addition to you saying it, as a leader, it opens up a Pandora's box, and it gives license to other people to out-Trump you. There's sort of a Trump mind virus. They're all going to go work for him, and they're going to see if they can out-Trump him in terms of what their rhetoric is and what they're saying to each other. So, I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm an avid listener of your podcast with Kathy Kay.
Thank you.
And on election night and in the hours after, when it became clear that Donald Trump won the presidency, you said this guy is a fascist. He's a horrific human being, son of a bitch, despicable. Why do you call him a fascist?
Well, he's all of those things, sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I stand by those remarks. So, fascists have a tendency to offer very simple solutions. They have a tendency to pit people against each other. They find scapegoats. They have a tendency to explain to people that they alone can solve their problems and that they're the panacea for their problems. And they're power absorbers. They're looking to consolidate power. Donald Trump has said he's going to use the American military against his adversaries. Donald Trump said last week that he should have never left the White House. He lost that election fair and square, but he should have never left the White House after 2020. So I can go down a categorical list of things that he's saying that are quite despicable and quite fascist. Now, if you're telling me that he doesn't mean it, then why say it? And many of his supporters, by the way, when I talk to them, they'll say to me, oh, well, no, he doesn't mean what he said.
Did it have a negative effect, all these words, because Kamala Harris called him a fascist as well, on the campaign of the Democrats? Because people are hearing Trump, fascist, Hitler. And apparently a majority of this country didn't think that at all and voted for him.
Majority of the people felt that the inflation and the economy was mishandled by the Biden administration. We could debate that. But I think the thing that they felt, which is undebatable in my mind, is the immigration side of the equation. They relaxed all the border restrictions that Trump imposed, and it caused a massive migration of illegal immigrants into the country. And I think that scared people, and I think that that's upset a very large group of people. And so I think those things override any cries of fascism or any cries of democracy. You know, somebody once said to me that, oh, well, a democracy is a luxury that you can have after you can figure out how to make your cost of living, to make your living expenses. And so there's a little bit of cynicism in that. But I think what's at issue for the American public is that they don't have a real memory of fascism in this country. You know, if you go to Amsterdam, we can visit sites where when the Nazis were occupying the city, the school men, the school boys, school children, school young girls are taught about the scourge of Nazism. But in the United States, Franklin Roosevelt put down the first America First political position. You know, we had a 1939 rally in Madison Square Garden. We had Charles Lindbergh and Father Coughlin, and we had Huey Long, all great populists decrying immigration, speaking as American nativists. And of course, the legendary Franklin Roosevelt was able to put down that political movement. So that's why we're here. You know, people don't really understand the danger that this could spill over. And by the way, you know, look, it's still a free country. I have the First Amendment right to free speech. I'm going to speak my mind, and I don't like it.
What do you expect? Because you have been working with Donald Trump very closely before you became enemies. And you have been for 10 days in the White House to speak to the press. Did you see at the time or now elements of the...
First of all, it was 11 days. Don't chip me out of the last day, because I got fired in that last. That was a big day for me.
Okay.
But I don't see him as an enemy. I see him as a political adversary.
Well, if you call somebody a fascist, he's not your friend, I suppose.
Well, let me put it to you this way. You know, did Franklin Roosevelt deal with Joe Stalin? Were they allies during the war?
Yeah, but that was in a war situation. Okay. We're not in a war here yet.
Well, we're not in a war yet, but he is the American political leader. He's the duly elected, democratically elected leader. You know, if he takes that leadership and he turns it in that direction, which I believe he has a potential tendency to do, if he's unchecked and he goes in that direction, then for sure we would be enemies. But if he decides to not the rhetoric that he used in the campaign and the behavior that he presented in the campaign, if he doesn't execute on that, then you invite me back for another interview and I'll say he spoke like a fascist, but he didn't act like one. So, you know, we'll see. Let me be very clear. Do I think he's a fascist? I do. Do I think that this system can control and contain somebody like him? I did in 2016, 2017 into 2021. Is the system with, as you point out, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the new immunity decision, presidential immunity decision from the Supreme Court, is the government, is the system in place to control him? I'm not sure.
What you are describing, if there is a chance that this new government under Donald Trump will be leaning towards tendencies of fascism, that has consequences not only for this country but for the world, also for Europe, for the Netherlands. What do you expect could happen? So,
we'll have to see how it plays out, but I think it's very important for people to tell the truth. I have friends of mine that worked in the administration. They're calling me and they're asking me if they should leave the country. I have friends of mine in the American media that are calling me and asking me if they should leave the country. And I think there's a chilling effect to the threats that Donald Trump is making towards people. And what we know about threats from political leaders, threats cause fear. And when you imbue fear into a society, you slow down that society, you create economic havoc, and you also create unnatural decision-making, irrational decision-making. So I don't know, but if he's going to go in that direction, it's very, very bad for Europe. He told John Bolton he wanted to come out of NATO. Is he going to come out of NATO? We'll have to see if he does. He says he's going to end the war in the Ukraine in 24 hours. He's apparently got a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. None of us can fully understand the relationship or why it's so good. What are the plans there?
What do you tell to those friends who ask you, should we stay or should we leave this country because it's getting dangerous? What is the advice that you give them?
I tell them to stay.
Are you staying?
Oh, fuck. Are you fucking kidding me? Of course I'm staying. Where am I going? I'm a New Yorker. I'm staying. This is my country. This is the country of my grandparents. My grandparents left Italy penniless to come here to create this great life for me. I'm an American, and I'm a patriot, an American patriot. And patriots stand down darkness. Patriots stand down tyranny. And I'm not going anywhere. They'll have to put me in jail.
The Secretary General of NATO is the Dutch former Prime Minister Mark Rutte. What would you advise him to do with his new sort of boss, Donald Trump?
Well, I would say to him, get close to Donald Trump to the extent that you can. Spend time with him. If you can get him on the golf course, I don't know if he's a golfer, get him on the golf course. I would go and have lunch with him. I would meet some of his family members. I would spend time. I would work the relationship and make it a personal one. It'll be harder for Trump to demonize NATO, that would be my best advice.
Did you become a rich man after the election of Donald Trump last week? Because you are a money man and you are invested. Yeah. Also in bitcoins and stocks. Everything went
when
up.
You said to become a rich man, the good news is, everybody's level of riches by definition is different. I'm a very blessed man. I grew up with little to no money. I've lived a good part of the American dream in this country, and I am financially independent at this point in my life. Did my portfolio go up dramatically because I'm long Bitcoin, stocks, bonds, a whole collection of assets? Yes, it did. Again, if Mr. Trump executes a pro-business deregulation strategy and Mr. Trump executes a peaceful alliance strategy, can we level up to more peace and more global prosperity, and will these assets be worth more in the next 4 years than they are today? Yes, they could be. Yeah. But there are things, there are risks out there that we need to explain to people. If the market is right, the market is telling you right now, don't take Donald Trump seriously on all the crazy fascist stuff that he said. Take Donald Trump seriously on pro-business and pro-regulation and in ending foreign wars. If you take him seriously on those things, the market's going to go way up, and we're not going to have a problem with any of those things. If he's going to try to deport 15 million people, it's going to be a disaster for this country. It'll add to the fear quotient that I talked about earlier. It'll add to the diminution of GDP. Tax revenues will go down. Social Security revenues will go down. And it'll cost us hundreds of billions of dollars in manpower, personnel, concentration camps to get these people moved out of the United States. And I think it would be a disaster for the country. It would break my heart if we saw something like that happen.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist after this week? And if I sit here in 4 years from now, how will the country have changed?
I mean, it's the best question ever. Look, I'm congenitally an optimist. I couldn't be the entrepreneur that I am without being an optimist. And so I'm hopeful. I want to be wrong. Okay, I want to be wrong.
But?
I just do. I want to be wrong. He's not a fascist. Mm-hmm. He's going to run it with some level of sanity. He's going to hand-check Putin, who's an adversary. He's going to make sure our alliance is safe. Jack Kennedy, when he visited the Berlin Wall, he said, Ich bin ein Berliner. I'm a Berliner. Mm-hmm. Okay, is Donald Trump a Berliner? That's the question. Is he with us? Okay, and if he's with us, God bless, and I'll be a very happy camper, and you'll invite me, hopefully, to another interview, and I'll say, geez, I was so wrong, and I'll just add that to the phone books of things that I've gotten wrong in my life. Okay, I want to be wrong about this.
Talking about phone books, we're in your office in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Your secretary comes in and tells you, Anthony, you have to stop this interview with Dutch television because we have the office of the president-elect on the phone.
Yeah.
His chief of staff They want to offer you a job. What are you saying?
Yeah.
Will you take the call?
Okay. So I mean, first of all, there's a 0.0% chance that could ever happen. But I would say thank you, but I'm running for re-election in my marriage. Okay, you've met my beautiful wife, and we almost got divorced last time that happened. I'm not well suited for Washington. I'm too direct. I'm too upfront. I don't have that Washington two-step and that extra backstab that's required in Washington. I just don't have it. You have to be very self-aware in life. You know, I love my country. I certainly would love to serve the country in some capacity, but it could never really be inside the White House. And I think people know that about me, and I know that about myself.
Thanks a million for your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Really good questions, by the way.
Bedankt voor het kijken. Vond je dit een goed gesprek? Vergeet je vooral niet te abonneren, een like of een comment achter te laten. Dat kan natuurlijk ook.
Why this corporation, this Inc?
Well, to stay in power. They're interested in power. And I think this makes one thing that makes them a little different from the dictators of the previous century. They're also very interested in money. So we're talking about people who are billionaires.